One thing among many things that we don't have time to teach you on most foundational courses is the concept of trim and basically your position in the water. There's a few different meanings of trim depending on who you talk to, but in general, when it comes to scuba diving, if they're talking about like your trim, it's how horizontal you are in the water. Hi, all of you awesome scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine channel, and welcome to Ask Mark, our scuba diving Q&A, where I'm Mark, a former diver instructor, do my best to answer your scuba diving questions. So if you do have any scuba diving questions, pop them down in the comment section underneath this video. Use this Ask Mark hashtag to get featured in an up and coming video, and of course I'll do my best to answer your questions in the meantime if I don't turn it into a video. But yeah, today I'm answering a question from a deaf gecko, apparently, all about your trim and how it can change depending on which cylinder you're using. So the deaf gecko says, as a mainly dry suit diver, I find managing my trim in a wetsuit an absolute nightmare. Whenever I go warm water diving with a wetsuit and an aluminium cylinder, I'm always head heavy but neutrally buoyant with a few kilos in my dumpable pockets. Any advice? Yes, so there are a couple problems here that we need to address. The first thing is that you're changing from a dry suit to a wetsuit, and you're also changing from a steel cylinder to an aluminium cylinder. This, as many viewers will know, is my plastic cylinder because it's a lot easier to move around. But if we look at cylinders first, a steel cylinder, the whole body is steel. They're very negatively buoyant, so they sink very readily, but most of the weight is going to be a bit further down. They're usually quite butt heavy because you've got a big section of steel down at the bottom, and they tend to sink in like a bum first position. So when you're diving here in the UK, because steel cylinders are very prevalent here, you'll find that the trim of that cylinder, the way that it naturally sort of put some weight on you, it's going to put a bit more weight down like around your bum as opposed to up around your shoulders. With aluminium cylinders, because aluminium cylinders will actually become positively buoyant when they get down to a certain pressure, the heaviest point is usually up around the shoulders, so you've got a lot less like negative weight pushing you down towards your backside, and you have about the same pushing down at the front. So that's why you're getting in that like head down position. So what most divers do with aluminium cylinders is try and mount them as far down as they can, literally so that the cam band is right before this kind of shoulder or neck of the cylinder, and that way that like downwards force is as far down towards the center. Basically, if you imagine yourself as like a seesaw, you want most of the weight to be in the center, and the further away from the center that weight is, the more of an effect it's going to have. So if it's closer to your center of buoyancy, it's going to have less of a tipping force. So if you find yourself in that like head down position and your cylinder is quite high up on your back, the first thing that I would do is just push it down as kind of low down as it can get. So your BCD is a bit higher and that cylinder rides a bit lower down on your back. If that doesn't help, there are still a few things that you can help. You said that you didn't have trim weights, but some divers put trim weights on their cam bands. If you've got weights up around your shoulders, obviously that's going to bring your head down, so move them further down to like your waist. And I've even seen some divers put an extra cam band just with some lead blocks on the bottom of aluminium cylinders just to help even it out. Alternatively, my mind goes to like heavier fins, maybe ankle weights. It's not so easy to travel with ankle weights because it's literally adding to your baggage allowance, but that can help because you're moving weight further away from your center of buoyancy. That can help to bring your feet downwards, but hopefully by moving your cylinder down a bit. Also, if you've got any like heavy equipment, for whatever reason, if you're clipping, I don't know, like a big bulky camera, if you're holding cameras and whatnot, if that's not neutrally buoyant and that's negatively buoyant, then whenever you're holding that out in front of you, that's going to bring you downwards. So kind of all these kind of things, just think about what's clipped onto your shoulders to be dragging your shoulders downwards, and either move it closer to your center of buoyancy, kind of around your waist, or yeah, just spread it somewhere else, basically, to try and think about where that trim and where that balance is. Changing from a wetsuit, no, correction, changing from a dry suit to a wetsuit, yeah, they do have a slight difference in buoyancy. Dry suits are a bit more active, shall we say, with that airflow inside of the suit. With most wetsuits, unless they're particularly thick, it shouldn't have too much. It's kind of the neoprene over your arms should counterbalance the neoprene that wants to float over your legs. I was diving once with a we call them Farmer Johns, where you'd have like salopettes, and then you'd have a jacket that went over the top with like a beaver tail under the crotch. And I went diving just with the like salopette trousers, and yeah, funnily enough, my legs were very floaty where my front half was not. So it's all about thinking about what's trying to make you go upwards, what's trying to make you go downwards, and trying to either spread it out or like get it to the that like central pivot point, so that yeah, you're not kind of flipping over. But yeah, whenever you swap from a steel cylinder to an aluminium cylinder, the buoyancy changes. Aluminium cylinders typically want to sink from the valve. Steel cylinders typically want to sink from the bottom, and that's where your like weight shift is going. Yeah, it would be lovely to go through these kind of things with every single student on foundational courses, but in a lot of cases we just don't have the time to spend time with every single student and say, actually, this is a steel cylinder that we're using. Let's try it on an aluminium cylinder and see how it affects you, or just try and do that kind of trim check to get them in the water and just get them horizontal and go, oh, okay, yeah, you're a bit shoulder heavy. Let's move some of the lead a bit further down your body, or whatever it is. So yeah, there are a fair few concepts that we'd like to spend a lot more time teaching you guys, but it is just, you know, practicality. Otherwise it turns like a 4-day course into like a week or month long course. So yeah, but it mainly comes down to the cylinder more than your exposure protection, where that's mounted, how it's mounted, and yeah, just think about your entire dive gear. If you've got very light fins, then it might be worth investing in some heavier fins. They're like the new halcyon fins. Scuba Pro have got a set as well where you can add actual metal blocks to them to make them sink more, or to make them lighter or neutrally buoyant. There's kind of concepts coming out like that. We have ankle weights. Granted, that's not something that you can really travel with. It is quite difficult. It's not difficult, it just takes up a lot of your baggage allowance. But yeah, moving that weight around, moving some of the positive buoyancy is kind of tricky. But yeah, it mainly comes down to cylinder position in most cases. Any other questions, by all means pop them down in the comment section underneath this video. Remember to use this @SmartMark hashtag to get it featured in an up and coming video. And yeah, I'll do my best to type out an answer for everybody. Otherwise, remember to like, share, subscribe, do all that good social media stuff. Head over to our website, divernet.com. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.